Michael, welcome to the programme. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What a fascinating book, Educating Boys. Let's start at the beginning. What's your experience in educating boys? You're not coming to this as a newbie, are you?
I'm afraid not at all. Raised two sons, been a teacher since I was about 21, and then I joined Massey University about 9 years ago as a senior lecturer in education, where I did my doctorate in boys' education.
Boys are hard though, aren't they? They're not an easy thing to teach.
Boys are a challenge, and it's a way you reach boys and the relationships you establish with boys are some of the key issues before you even worry about the curriculum. That if you can establish a good relationship with the boy, where you're showing, hey, I'm here for you and I care, then that's one of the key steps into the teaching of the subject.
So are our schools getting it right then in terms of boys?
Well, if you look statistically, on results, but no. If you look statistically on the number of boys that we refer to special needs programs like reading, math, and behavioural, where it's something like 75% referral rate of boys, we can do a lot better for our boys.
Is it just the schools, or is it parents, families as well?
I wrote that book for schools and parents because I believe schools can't do it all. And you can't expect schools to do it all. It's got to start with a good support from home. And what you've done in the first few years are critical to how well you're going to establish the stages as they get in through school.
One of the interesting things is exactly that. At one point you talk about letting your son see men reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's right back at the start.
At the beginning, one of the very first times my wife left me alone with my son, I just sat on the couch, picked up Western, good old cowboy book, and I just read to him. It wasn't so much what I was reading, it was the sound of my voice, the comfort of being close to Dad, and so if you can build, because boys struggle with reading and writing very much. In fact, right at the beginning, you can establish, say with reading, that it's a pleasurable experience, a closeness, a love, and then the reading goes with it. That bond, so reading becomes a good feeling, rather than waiting until you get to school, first time experience of reading, bad feeling, and you're off.
It's interesting that, you mentioned the physical closeness. You actually talk about boys as being very physical creatures.
Yes.
Is that the secret?
Boys are very, very physical, a lot more physical than girls, right through from the young baby stage right through. They move more, they take up more space, and research to date is starting to show now that some of the reasons why boys need to move is actually it helps brain coordination, communication in the brain, that whole stimulating of the brain is all in that movement sometimes. I've got a son at home who never keeps still. He's always moving. And at school he struggled because the idea of school was sit in that desk, keep still. Our idea of a class at school, you've got 25 children all sitting there quiet. When else, and we say, well, that's good discipline for them. But you've also got to think about what is good learning for them as well. And we seem to become more fixed on reading, writing, listening, sitting, so much so that sometimes you go into schools and you say, well, when do you do your science? When do you get your hands in and experiment with something? When do you go out and do technology with the building and the creating side of things? And we've allowed reading and writing sort of to force out some of our other curriculum areas, which should be a part of a whole strong curriculum that suit boys.
My memories of chemistry are mostly trying to blow things up. So, that's probably why I did chemistry right up to A-level.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing that now, the chemistry guild in the UK are worried about, is that we've got these chemistry graduates coming through who know how, they've got a degree in it, but they don't know actually how to function very well in the lab situation, or how to create and assemble the apparatus for doing the tests. They've read it, they've written it, but they haven't got their hands into it. And boys that I researched, when I said, how do you learn best? Most of them said, I like getting involved. Simple as that, you know. And you can't get involved when you're sitting in a chair.
One of the interesting things in the book is there are lots of quotes from teenagers. It gives you an insight into teenagers. And I thought one of the most insightful bits was the diagram of an iceberg, which is how we as grown-ups see boys and how boys really are. Just go through the way the iceberg works.
Well, one of the things I found out early on, that mates are a really important part in a boy's life. So I said, what do you do when you hang out with your mates? And for, about 90% of the time, I'd estimate, they do absolutely nothing. Well, nothing constructive. They sit around together, they'll eat, they'll listen to music, they'll watch videos, they'll play with the Xbox, they'll strum on the guitar, they'll talk, or they'll just gaze into space sometimes. You wonder where they are. So that's why I put the iceberg in. We only hear about the tip of the iceberg, where we read in the paper about boy races, about boisterous behaviour, party, tagging. But that's a small tip. For 95% of the time, most boys are doing a harmless activity with their mates. If you mix things like testosterone, fast cars, beer together, that's the 5 minutes or the 10% of the time when they're in danger. And it's the 10% of the time we've got to really be controlling or trying to keep an eye on what they're doing. And I sort of pick your battles. I think that's half of it, My wife used to get absolutely mad about no towels anywhere. There would be wet towels all piled up in the bedroom.
Oh, this sounds familiar.
With all the other dirty clothes. And you don't worry about that. The main thing is they're home, you know where they are. And I also, the other rule I have with my sons, and I think for anyone, is you can ring me anytime, even if it's 4 a.m. in the morning, and I will come and get you. I won't ask any questions, I'll just come and get you and bring you home safely. No matter what the journey is like getting there, at the end, you end up usually with I've got 2 fine young men. So, no, I didn't do it all right. My sons will tell you that too.
Well, it's a great guidebook for the rest of us, Michael. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, my pleasure.